Hello, this is Joseph Blanchett, aka LegendaryFrog, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of background information about this cartoon you're about to watch. As you might be able to tell, it's based on Warcraft 3, the RTS, so not World of Warcraft, which Warcraft is kind of known for these days, so it was even before that. Me and an animator friend were going to work on this project together, but I think it turned out a little bit too ambitious at the time, just a lot of work. I wrote it, like all three parts, part 1, part 2, and part 3 all at once. And I wanted to have the structure kind of based on like the campaigns of the game. So I wanted like orcs and humans to be in part 1, and then the undead in the next one, and then the finale be about the night elves. And I didn't really have a clear story path when I started. I knew I wanted like the big attack on the castle, and then the undead next kind of fit into that as the two adventurers go on a adventure. And like I set up the Night Elves being the ones who save the day pretty early, but I didn't really have an idea of the characters, and those kind of came naturally when I started writing. So that's why the first part, as you might notice, is kind of light on character and story, and then it starts to develop more and more. In fact, by the time I got to the third part, the characters were obviously more fleshed out. And I started to have more ideas about how maybe some of these characters, like the relationships between these characters. Like this was cut out of the main version, but James, the main human character, was going to be the son of the paladin character in the first part, and that didn't really go anywhere because I wrote it into the last part, but not the first one. But we'll get to some stuff like that a little later. But like I mentioned before, the project really didn't go anywhere. I approached a few people with the project, but it was just too kind of big. Like I was probably going to do the artwork for at least for one of the iterations. I was going to do the artwork, and my art in Flash doesn't really fit the style of it. Like it just wouldn't have looked very good. And the next person like didn't really work out for him either. And it just kind of sat there for a while. Moved on with some other projects. A few years later, I did like a World of Warcraft cartoon. But my friend Serge said, "Hey, can I take your Warcraft script that you showed me, and I want to do a storyboard of it?" I was like, "Okay, that sounds pretty neat." And he did that over the course of a few months, and he actually put it out on his DeviantArt page. And that was a lot of fun. It was like he's an extremely good artist, and he has a very cool style, and like it fit really well. And I was like, oh, that's neat. And then I didn't really hear back from him about the rest of the parts, and we kept in touch every once in a while. And he always mentioned, "Hey, I'm still working on that Warcraft script." They call it the Warcraft trilogy internally. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And every time we talk to each other, which is every year or so, he would say, "Hey, I'm still working on it." And after a while, I just kind of forgot about it. And then earlier this year, he said, "Hey, I finally finished it." And I was like, "Oh my god, that was like 10 years ago. That was like 8 years ago since you mentioned that, first starting that." And he was like, "Yeah, I completed it." So he sent me all the stuff, parts 1, 2, and 3, and it was, pretty good. And I remembered a lot of the jokes, and I was like, "Hey, I think this might be worth putting out there for people to see." It's like a real long-lost Legendary Frog cartoon. I think people will get a kick out of seeing this. And while it would have been good just to show the storyboards, I thought, this is such good drawings, because it's not really animation. Why not we spruce it up a little bit and we can voice it? Like I can get some voices, and we can just release it like that. So that's what I did. I reached out to my fans on Twitter and DeviantArt and Facebook, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to release this cartoon. I would love it if it was voiced by fans, because ultimately this is who I'm going to be releasing it for." And I got some really talented people who sent us stuff. I picked up, and I chose, especially for James and Karn, the two main characters. Like those voice actors are awesome. I'm actually good friends with Edwin, and it was looking really good in that respect. And Serge said to me, "It's like, I can make this look even better." And I was like, "Oh, don't put more work on yourself. Like, you already did so much work over the past decade on this." And he said, "No, if I put my mind to this, like, I can get done in a couple months, probably, like adding like World of Warcraft backgrounds to everything." And so that's what he decided to do. And you're about to watch it. just a few more things about it. This is really like the first draft of the script that I wrote way back when. Like, not much has really changed. I cleaned up some dialogue that was just awkward or not well written. I left pretty much all the jokes in, for better or worse. I'll let you decide. So, like, this is, what I wrote in 2004. Just a little disclaimer, I did add a scene, because in the script, in part 1, the part where what we find out to be the Necrolite was being attacked by the orcs, that wasn't in the original script. That was actually something in the script. It just said, add ogre scene here, and I was going to have a scene where James, on his way to the castle, kind of came across a bridge or a toll. This ogre, like, you must pay the toll. But I actually didn't write it, because I guess maybe I didn't have any good ideas for it. But in the storyboard, Serge added the part where he attacks some orcs in the woods, and he put the Necrolite in the background. And I said, well, what if we kind of expand on this and have the orcs attack the wandering man in the forest, and it turns out to be one of the bad guys in part 2. So we added that in, added some new dialogue, and there are some parts in part 3 with the Night Elves that I took out because, frankly, it was kind of some crude humor. A forest full of Amazon women. You put it together. It wasn't anything too bad, but like it didn't really fit the tone, and my style of humor kind of changed since then. So most of it's there, but there was a couple jokes I cut from that, and we ended up splitting part 3 into 2 parts because it felt a little disjointed having the Night Elves and then the big battle scene. It was almost like 2 episodes anyway. It was almost twice as long. But other than that, most of it is exactly the way I wrote it, and Serge did a great job with the characters. I designed a couple of them very loosely, but for the most part, he designed all the characters. The voice actors did a great job. Make sure to check the credits to get a full list of all those guys, and hope you guys enjoy this. Like I mentioned, this really is a long-lost Legendary Frog cartoon, and it wouldn't have seen the light of day if it wasn't for Serge. So again, I thank him, and enjoy!